Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I'm going to show you how I join bits of leftover pieces of batting into another big size, so you can use it again to make a quilt. So I don't know about you, but I often buy my quilt batting maybe a bit bigger, or I buy it before I know exactly what size of quilt I'm going to make. And so then obviously when I'm trimming off, I've got the bit on the top and the bit down the side. And obviously there's other projects and things you can do with them, but it saves money, obviously, if you can just join those together and use it for your next quilt. So it's super simple, doesn't take a lot of time, and you can use up all those leftover batting scraps. So apologies for the pajamas and the bed head here. I'm doing this on a Sunday morning. I finished a quilt top for a friend's wedding recently this week. And it's a lap size. And when I pulled out the batting from my the little container where I keep it, I realized I didn't have a full piece of batting. I just had these bits from the sides of other quilts that I'd trimmed off. So I think I probably normally buy like queen size batting, and then I make lap quilts. It's a ridiculous way to buy batting, but anyways, I ended up joining two long strips and then two shorter strips that became a third long strip in order to make the batting for my lap quilt. And it's still a bit bigger than I need, so I do have other projects I'm going to show you in future videos about what to do with those smaller pieces that you trim off of that as well. So what I'm doing here, and I'm going to show you closer up as well in a minute, is just like very lightly overlapping each row of the batting so that one is on top of the other. And then I'm going to cut through both layers so that we're making a cut so the sides match, because obviously when you trim off batting when you're trimming your quilt after you've quilted it, you don't always necessarily do it in a super straight line and whatever, so they're not necessarily going to match each other. So this is just to try and make sure the two sides are going to butt up against each other when we go to join them together. So that's what I'm doing here, and I do have a close-up version when I go to cut the two smaller pieces that you can see kind of sitting on the side there. And you'll be able to see a bit better how this works. Okay, so here's the close-up. This is the two smaller pieces, so I was able to do it on the table instead of on the floor. So I'm just overlapping the one piece over the other, getting my ruler just to kind of get a straight-ish line. It really doesn't matter if it's super straight as long as you're cutting through both layers of the batting so that they're going to kind of match each other when you go to sew them together, which is how we're going to join them. And I'll show you that in a second as well. So if you've cut through both layers, then when you pull them apart, you should end up with a little string of batting there, and you can just save that somewhere else for a future project. And then ideally your two sides are going to roughly line up a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so then we take our two pieces or two rows, depending on how large the bits you are that you're trying to join, and we're using a zigzag stitch. So I've got a closer up image of that in a second as well. And I use a stitch length of 2 for this. So because you want to just make sure you're catching both sides of the batting. So you're just trying to butt it up as close together. Take your time. So I kind of usually do a few stitches, and then I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but you kind of see it sort of start to gape. And that's when I sort of stop, lift the foot, let it go back together, and then zigzag again, just pushing it with my fingers on either side as I go. So it's a bit, it can be a bit of a slow process, but it does, if you take your time, it does go together nicely. So just take it nice and slow. So the bit of batting there with the ruler sitting on top of it is where I joined the two smaller sort of squarish sections together. And now I'm joining it to the larger piece that I already joined earlier. So I'll show you how that turns out just now. Okay, so here is the finished piece of batting. So I essentially joined 2 long and 2 short bits together to make one great big piece. I haven't measured it. I just put my quilt top on top to see was it the right size and a bit bigger. I'm just kind of panning to show you the joins and the extra bit of fabric there on the edge that I'm going to trim off. And if you find little holes like this, I found a couple, then just take it back to the machine and sew through it. It's not super essential if you're going to do dense quilting, but better safe than sorry. So you can hardly see it really even in person. And once you've got your backing and your quilt top on and you've done your quilting, no one's going to be able to notice where these joins are. That's another little hole that I'm going to have to fill in there. Just found it. And yeah, this ended up bigger than I needed just because of the leftover batting I have. So I do have another project I'm going to show you either next week or the week after for the smaller bits. And I'll also show you the quilt that I was working on that I needed the batting for. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you like videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and leave me a comment and let me know if you tried it or what you'd like to see videos on in future. Thanks for spending time with me.